Trump envoy lands in Russia as Putin hails important capture of Pokrovsk, although claim is disputed by Kyiv. We'll talk about this with Julian and Röpcke, senior political editor at BILD. Julian, glad to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Julian, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has arrived in Moscow. Russian media report Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has also arrived. We are essentially moving in circles with the high probability after this meeting between Witkoff and Putin, Russia will once again voice its own demands that will categorically not align with those put forward by the United States together with Ukraine. How do you assess the role of Trump's special envoy in shaping potential diplomatic outcomes between the US, Russia and Ukraine, and your own expectation?
Yes, I think you are absolutely right. I think what Russia is really doing by inviting Mr. Witkoff again and again and having new and new circles is winning time. I think this is what Russia wants right now. We have recently seen that there was a 28-point negotiation, paper. And as far as I know, and I really believe the reports, this was leaked by Russia itself, which then later rejected these 28 points because it said they were not the maximum demands of what Russia really wants. So they were just playing for time again. It's a gamble, basically, because Russia right now, unfortunately, is still advancing on the battlefield. I think they're not looking for peace right now. They have the maximum demands and they want to achieve. I mean, they're very frank about this. They say we want to achieve the goals of our so-called special military operation, which means the illegal invasion of Ukraine. And they want to achieve these goals by any means. They said, if Ukraine wants to surrender, great, then we achieve it by this. This is what they are offering to Mr. Witkoff. And if not, we will advance on the ground. And unfortunately, Russia is still not in a situation where they are under pressure to give in to any demands and have a compromise on the ground. So I see it basically as a gamble to buy more time and either get Ukraine to surrender, which luckily so far Ukraine is unwilling to do, or just have another week, another month, another year to keep fighting and destroying Ukraine.
Julian, what forms of diplomatic, economic, or military pressure do you believe are now necessary to compel Russia to engage constructively in negotiations?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, nothing really has changed. I think as a German, I have to say the Taurus has to be delivered. This would be a strong signal. We have heard from our chancellor over the past couple of weeks and months again that Russia is destroying civilian infrastructure. We have just seen this terrible Iskander attack on Dnipro yesterday, which killed 4 people and wounded 40. And I think there were young people among the victims as well. So this is war crimes. This is what we are seeing every day. So it would be, not just from a military point of view, it would be good to deliver the Taurus, to destroy all Russian critical infrastructure within 500 kilometers of the front line. But it would also be a strong symbolic point. It would be a point that Europe is not letting down Ukraine, that we are willing to raise the stakes, We're not raising the stakes, we're keeping it on the same level for a long time now. And while Russia is escalating again and again. So I think this would be one thing when it comes to military terms. The other thing, of course, would be real sanctions. We have seen these very exceptional US sanctions, which started in October against Rosneft and Lukoil, and they have led to big consequences, a giant reduction in naphtha exports, for example, to China, to Taiwan, to India. We have also heard that Turkey has reduced the imports by 1/3. So it's a lot you can do. And last but not least, of course, these frozen assets. Unfortunately, also here, we're hearing for a year now that we are very close to compromise in European Union. We're not. There are some countries, in this case, Belgium, I think, blocking these compromises. And in the end, it's just Ukraine suffering more and more and Russia having a good time.
Julian, you mentioned Taurus. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius stated that the issue of supplying long-range Taurus missiles to Ukraine is currently not on the agenda, and discussions about potentially deploying German troops to enforce a ceasefire are not timely. It is quite disappointing. This is very unfortunate. Could you explain what the primary challenges or reasons are for this stance now?
I think it's still the same and old German angst, so the German fear in front of everything. I mean, we want to keep channels open. I really think so. We still have an ambassador in Moscow, by the way. We still have diplomatic relations with Russia. They are active with many diplomats, so-called diplomats, which means agents and hybrid warriors here in Germany. So everything is more or less the same. I mean, we don't want to escalate. This is unfortunately what our government sees as the reality. They want to keep things down. They want to have a basis for possible future negotiations, for even maybe a resumption of economic ties with Russia. I mean, you probably see that in our polls right now, there's a right-wing extremist party which is absolutely pro-Russian. It's leading in the polls. And one of the big things they promise is to reopen Nord Stream. So, okay, this is opposition so far. But of course, I mean, the government is under pressure because this opposition party is polling highest, more than the CDU, more than the Merz party, much more than the Pistorius party. So you can see this pressure, and you can see that, of course, it's domestic issues in Germany as well, that people are afraid of losing elections. They are afraid of escalating with Russia. So unfortunately, it's the German angst, it's the German fear which still dominates our foreign policy.
In the meantime, we see that Russian occupation forces continued their attempts to seize Pokrovsk and Mirnograd in the Donetsk region. The situation remains critical, but the battle for this urban agglomeration is ongoing. The enemy keeps dispersing throughout Pokrovsk and its outskirts, trying to establish physical control over the area. Most enemy activity is recorded in the central and northern parts of the city, the Deep State Monitoring Project reported on Telegram. Meanwhile, Ukrainian defenders are working to clear specific districts, though the main effort is being carried out by drone operators who are relentlessly trying to detect and eliminate Russian forces. How would you evaluate the strategic significance of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd in the broader context of Russia's current offensive approach in Donetsk and with the situation?
Well, I would go with the deep state map assessment. I mean, why you have the most activity in the north? Because the south of Pokrovsk, and I'm talking about at least 50%, is deep red on the deep state map, which means it's under tight Russian control. There's no fighting for this area. There's tight Russian control in this area. Also, you see the center of Pokrovsk. It is deep red on the deep state map. It's not orange. It's not or gray zone. So this is also under Russian occupation. You could see this flag hoisting video there yesterday. So I would absolutely agree with the deep state map that it is the town is 70% under tight Russian control and 30% still with sometimes Ukrainian troops going in and out, doing raids, trying to kill some Russian soldiers, but then also leaving the town again. I do not see any Ukrainian permanent presence in Pokrovsk right now. So this is the problem. So I just don't see this. I rather see that Hiryshny is being reached by the Russians. You can also see this on your map. It's a gray area on the first houses of Hiryshny, while they are extremely bombing this area with FRB bombs. And you can also see that most of Rodynske is gray right now. So again, I don't see an efficient counteroffensive here. I see Ukraine more or less successfully keeping the logistics corridor to Mirnograd open. At least there are some meters still which are not under Russian control, but which is under intense Russian drone strikes. So yes, I mean, these pictures speak for themselves. I've been in Pokrovsk last time in September last year, and I can confirm, unfortunately myself, that the Russian soldiers which were carrying the flag, they are in the center of Pokrovsk, and there's no fighting in the center of Pokrovsk. It's deep red once again. It's only drones coming from 5 to 10 to 15 kilometer distance from the Ukrainian side which are hitting this area. So this is the situation right now. Unfortunately, again, I would say 70% of Pokrovsk is under tight Russian control, including the center, and 30% is, you can say, embattled. But this does not mean that there's Ukrainian units defending. It means that Russians are there and Ukrainians are going in, killing some Russians and going out again. And unfortunately, again, the dynamics of the past, since August, since the Russians entered, the dynamics also on the map, you saw this on Deep State, has only gone to one direction. The fighting is moving northward, which means most of the town is like a big graveyard now and unfortunately under Russian occupation control.
Julian, you said about drones. Ukrainian drone operators are playing a key role in detecting and eliminating Russian units. How transformative has drone warfare become in shaping the battlefield dynamics, especially in urban environments? And what about Russian?
Yeah, well, first, I mean, drones have absolutely transformed the battlefield. I think 90% of Russian casualties now is due to drone attacks. But in urban fields, it's much harder to attack with drones, because as soon as you have a house, as soon as you have a wall, you cannot penetrate it. It's impossible. With a fiber wire or even with a radio-guided drone, you cannot penetrate through a house. You can penetrate through the window, maybe. If you have a fiber wire drone, you can move inside the building. Otherwise, it's just not possible. So again, I think it's much easier for Ukrainian drone operators to kill Russians when they're on the field, when they are moving from A to B. You can see all these videos from the 7th Corps. I think you have shown them before. How many of these videos are attacking Russians in the city, which is under Russian control mostly? Almost none. It's almost impossible. They can run away. If they hear the drone, they go to the next house, they go to the next floor, they hide, and they just wait until the drone loses its battery. It's unfortunately, it's that easy. So you can see that most of the Ukrainian drones attacks are attacking logistics. They're attacking soldiers outside. And if you want to destroy a house, you have to use artillery. Of course, artillery is also very dangerous right now, because unfortunately, the Russian fiber wire drones, they fly 20 kilometers now. And if you look at Molnia, if you look at Lancet, if you look at Child and all the others, they fly even much longer, and they can target most artillery pieces, which is why artillery for both sides is playing a less and less crucial role. Yeah, so that's what I mean. You're just showing this on the video. It's on the free. So as soon as you're in the public, as soon as you're on site, on the field, on the street, that's possible to hit there, even on the graveyard. But unfortunately, as soon as they're hiding in the houses and they're moving forward, as soon as the drone is gone, then it's really hard to defend with drones inside a town. What you need inside a town, and this is for centuries. I mean, this is everyone knows this who knows something about war. What you need to clear a town is manpower. Ukraine has no manpower. The maximum team of the Scala battalion, I think I've seen, is 5 soldiers going in. GUR once tried with 11 soldiers. This was really the biggest assault at all. Otherwise, we see 2 or 3 soldiers on Ukrainian footage being guided by a drone and being also protected from the air, by FPV drones. But that's it. So 2 to 3 soldiers. The maximum is 12 soldiers. What do you do? I mean, in reality, we know that there are more than 1,000 Russians in the town right now. Maybe it's even 2,000 or 3,000 Russians. No one really knows, because they're hiding in the basements. And Ukraine does not have the manpower, and is also not, I think, attempting to recapture the town, no matter what the official version is.
Julian, in November, the Russian army seized 505 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, almost twice as much as in September, according to Deep State. How significant is the fact that Russia managed to seize 505 square kilometers in November, nearly double the gains made in September? What does this acceleration indicate about the current phase of the war?
And by the way, this is exactly what I predicted when we talked in October. I said it might be a new maximum. I think it's not the maximum. I think 1 month was more in this year, but it's the second strongest month for the Russians when it comes to territorial advances. And well, I mean, you can do the math. I don't have to do this. The math is easy. Ukraine holds 5,500 square kilometers in Donbas still. So if you just calculate this up, I mean, mathematically, it would take Russia 12 months to capture all of Donetsk. Of course, we know that they are not only capturing or advancing in Donetsk Oblast, and this is even more worrying for Ukraine, because I think most of the gains of the territorial gains this month have been in Zaporizhia, in Dnipropetrovsk, and parts of this also in Kharkiv in the north, where they have, by the way, captured all of Vovchansk right now, which is another big setback for the Ukrainian army. And this is really the problem. You have the Russians attacking from all sides, from the north of Ukraine, from the east of Ukraine, from the south of Ukraine, and Ukraine doesn't have the manpower to defend all fronts at the same time. So yeah, I mean, you can do the math. I think mathematically, as I said, it's 12 months to capture all of Donetsk. Of course, they are advancing on other fronts, but I think if the war continues like it does right now, it will be a maximum of 3 years until all of Donbass is under Russian control without any negotiations.
Julian, you mentioned the city of Olha. Analysts report that the most significant enemy advance was recorded in the Olha direction, which accounts for about 40% of all territorial changes. Why do you think Russia concentrated its efforts there? What tactical or logistical advantages does the Olha access offer to Russian forces at this stage?
I think Russia is not concentrating its forces there. It's concentrating its forces on Pokrovsk. But also Ukraine is concentrating its forces on Pokrovsk, which means there's almost no manpower in the south. I've spoken to several Ukrainian soldiers, and they just said, unfortunately, it's weak brigades down there. It's territorial defense. It's brigades which are not as important as others, which are defending the main strong points. And I don't know why. I mean, we have seen this differently in the past. I don't want to criticize anyone because I'm not in war. I cannot say this. But in the past, we have seen that Ukraine was concentrating its forces where Russia didn't calculate with it, where it was a surprise, where they could weaken them. For a year now, Ukraine is playing Russia's game. They are bringing the forces exactly where the Russians want them to be, exactly where the Russians push most. So that's really interesting, I would say. And in the end, I mean, there's an old saying: if an old Soviet army fights, or small Soviet army fights a big Soviet army, the big Soviet army will win. So by just putting all of your manpower where the Russians are pushing most, it will not work, because as you rightfully said, Julian, that was the biggest advance. The Russians there advanced, believe it or not, 80 kilometers since the beginning of the year, since the fall of Kurachovo, 80 kilometers to the west in this area. They were not advancing from south to Julian, but the whole way from Kurachovo to Julian they advanced. So that's a lot of kilometers. And it is not because Russia is so strong in the south. They are not. It's because Ukraine is so weak in the south. And Ukraine is concentrating a lot of holding these areas which are in the media, which are under big scrutiny of everyone in the world. While at the same time, I mean, seriously, unfortunately, no one knows Julian beyond Ukraine and some experts. So this is why Mr. Zelensky wanted to have, just as he wanted with Bakhmut, that Pokrovsk is as long as possible under our control. And unfortunately, he also has a general staff right now which is following exactly these orders and doing exactly what Zelensky wants. And I fear that it is in Russian interest to have Ukraine concentrating its forces where they are putting the most manpower, which is absolutely dispensable for them. They don't care about them, and they don't care about everyone being killed on the ground. Ukraine cares about it. So putting the most men where Russia puts the most men does mean that Russia gets rid of all the people they don't need, and Ukraine unfortunately loses its best warriors.
Julian, you referred to the city of Vovchansk. As of now, the occupiers have managed to infiltrate through Ukrainian positions in Vovchansk, but part of the city on the right bank of the Volcha River remains under the control of Ukrainian forces. The 57th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade reported. How critical is the situation in Vovchansk now that Russian forces have infiltrated parts of Ukrainian defensive lines?
Yeah, well, if you see what Vovchansk looks right today, it's nothing is left of the town. Unfortunately, I think it had 18,000 inhabitants when the Russians attacked in May 23, and now it's down to zero. It's only ruins. I think Ukrainians are holding some square meters on the outer southeastern part, which is only small buildings, but the whole center, everything that was big in Vovchansk, including the industrial area on the left side of the Vovcha, is under Russian control now. I mean, you could see, again, unfortunately, Russia hoisting its flag in the very south, on the most southern street, and then you saw, okay, a Ukrainian drone killing the flag hoister. So, okay, he was killed, but this doesn't mean that Ukraine holds this area. It means that Ukraine is south of it. We have seen Russian bombing, I think, Vilche, something like this. It's the nearby village south of Vovchansk. And if you see the Russians bombing some area, then and some area not, meaning Vovchansk is not getting bombed by the Russians, and also no drone strikes are there, I think that's an indicator. Yeah, there you can see it. It's an indicator that there is very, very little Ukrainian presence in Vovchansk. I think part of it is still a gray zone, but again, this does not mean that Ukraine controls part of the town, unfortunately.
What does this type of infiltration tell us about Russia's current tactics in the Kharkiv direction? And what about not only Vovchansk, but Kupiansk?
Yes, I mean, when you follow the Russian narrative, it is a buffer zone they want to build. I think it's not a buffer zone. I think if you see where they're advancing, it's far away from the town, from the border. They're not advancing to the left and right from Vovchansk, and they're not so much advancing to the west of Kupiansk, but they are advancing as deep as they can. So, I mean, the real, yeah, you can see this. The arrows there, they are to the south in Vovchansk. They're not to the left and right. So I think what they're trying, yeah, Vivcha, that was the next little town I was talking about. They try to penetrate deeper into each oblast. They try to capture as much as possible, because if they know that in any case, if there is any sort of negotiated ceasefire or whatever, they can either hold these areas, which are deep inside Ukraine, which will be a sting in Ukraine's flesh, or they can gamble them away very, very expensively against other areas which are now under Ukrainian control.
And about other threats, and about not only Volchansk and Kupiansk, what do you think about the situation here?
Yeah, in Kupiansk, you still have the advantage that there's the Oskil River. I've seen many Russian attempts to cross the Oskil River with heavy equipment, and they have been stopped. You have seen, I think, just yesterday, an MTU-20, something like this, a T-55-based bridge laying system was destroyed by the Ukrainian army. So the Russians are trying to cross the river with heavy equipment. So far, it's not working. So far, it's only infantry and very light vehicles in Kupiansk, and this is why Ukraine has the power to keep pushing from the west, and always slowing down a lot and even holding some areas of Kupiansk, which is, I think, a good thing. But it only works because of this unique situation there. You can see this on your map on the right side, from our point of view, on the right side of the Oskil River. You have also Ukrainian-held areas, so the Russians have a very, very thin line of logistics there, coming only from the north to Kupiansk. And they cannot advance from the east, they cannot advance from the south, they cannot advance from the west. And this is why it goes really slow there. And this is why Ukraine can send in some of the forces and make it impossible so far for Russia to capture all of Kupiansk.
Bilan, for the first time in Ukraine, the combat use of an R-60 air-to-air missile mounted on the Russian Shahed drone has been documented. Photos of the wreckage confirmed the presence of a launch rail and the missile itself on the downed drone. The images appeared on the analytical Telegram channel Про зв'язок від Сергія Плеша. How significant is the documented use of an R-60 air-to-air missile mounted on a Shahed drone in terms of Russia's evolving strike capabilities? What tactical purpose might Russia be trying to achieve by equipping a kamikaze drone with an air-to-air missile originally designed for fighter jets?
Yes, so I think this is, for now, that's a testing ground for several reasons. First, you can see that the missile was not launched. It was shot down because Russia also does not know which kind of countermeasure will take down their Shaheds. They don't know if it will be a Sting drone, it will be a ground fire, it will be an F-16 or something like this, or Mirage 2000. If it is an F-16 or Mirage, it could be that these missiles are suddenly being used. But if it's something else hitting their Shahed, and this was obviously the case this time, they're not even launched. They don't see a target, something like this. At the same time, I think also another reason why I don't see this to be coming regularly is that an R-60, it doubles the price of a Shahed. I mean, you have to really say this. The Shahed is still quite cheap. I would say it's around 100,000 euros each. I think it's more expensive than earlier because Russia had to adapt to some of the electronic warfare and other defensive measures of Ukraine. But still, an R-60 on it doubles the price. So I don't think this will be regular. Also, as I said, because Russia doesn't know if the Shahed meets an F-16 at all. But of course, it's a dangerous development. It shows that they are playing a lot with their drones. Unfortunately, they have so many capabilities. I mean, they're using up to 600 per night that they can say, okay, these 10 get some air-to-air missiles. These 10 get a new, let's say, a new SIM card. So they use another sort of navigation. So these 10 are going to Poland because let's see what they're doing. So that's the problem here. It's a big playfield for them, and unfortunately, we as the West, not Ukraine, we as the West are giving them all the time and all the possibilities to play with their drones and to build more and more. I think it's 6,000 per month right now, and develop them. And when I'm seeing something like this, that a drone carries an air-to-air missile, I'm really worrying about our own future, about NATO future, about Central European future, not Ukraine, because once they will attack us, and they will in the future, as soon as they are finished with Ukraine, these drone fleets will not just be giant, they will also be equipped with all kinds of tools and all kind of tricks which the West, at least in the beginning, will have no means to defend against.
Julian, Ukraine is the shield of Europe, and thank you for your insightful analysis and for sharing your expertise. Bilan Röpcke, senior political editor at BILD, was with us. We greatly appreciate your continued attention to the situation in Ukraine and your support in highlighting the challenges our country faces. Your work helps the international community understand the realities on the ground and the importance of standing with Ukraine during this critical time. So thank you so much and see you.
Thank you. All the best and stay alive.
Thank you.